everybody, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to work on another commission. This is for a friend of the family and they wanted a fruit bowl. So I have this beautiful piece of ash and we're going to make a fruit bowl out of it. Now I'm going to try and change the format a little bit in the next few videos just to see how it goes. So I'm not going to be doing talking as I go through, but instead I'm going to record the audio afterwards. So I'll kind of narrate it after the video is completed, just to see how it goes. Now, as I mentioned at the start, this is a commission piece for a friend. Now, they were after a fruit bowl, so my job in this case is to produce something which will hold fruit. Therefore, we have to consider the function of the piece as opposed to the form. Now, fruit bowls are predominantly hollow in the center, they have steeper sides, and they're also food safe. So you have to keep all these things in mind when you're creating the piece in question. It's no good me just turning up with a piece and saying, you know, isn't this beautiful? I hope you like it. When, you know, it'll only hold a couple of apples and maybe a banana. So this case I'm working hard to produce something which will still look good, but have the function that they require. In a couple of seconds you'll see me start to investigate a knot that's in the side of the wood. The client was aware that this knot was in there. I don't just choose any particular piece of wood at random. I always show them the piece first, and just to make sure that they're happy and they know what it's going to be made out of. Now, when I first came across this knot, I presumed that it was just something to do with the knot, as you can see around the rim. And it is the case. After I managed to clear out this hole and clear out all the debris, I do put compressed air through that top crack you can see, and it does clearly show dust and debris being thrown out from the bottom hole. Those little pick tools I have really do help with getting into crevices and help cleaning things out. But when that's not quite good enough, then you've got to move on to something slightly more powerful, like a Dremel. I'm just using it here just to help clean the edges and to make sure that everything's ready for the next step, which is to be filled with resin. I'm using hot glue here just to try and create a dam around the edges, because I'm going to be pouring resin onto a curved surface. The last thing I want is it starting to pour out the edge and down the side of the piece. So I'm just build up a few layers of the hot glue just to stop the resin going anywhere when it reaches the top. Now, I generally use a glass cast for any kind of resin work I do, mainly because of its degassing properties. It'll clear itself of bubbles without the use of a vacuum chamber or a pressure pot. And if you look back through my videos, you'll see me using it on a cherry tree root, which came out virtually perfect. There was no air bubbles to be seen anywhere. I've got some tape there purely because I know that the holes in the top and the side are connected to this larger opening at the base. So I've just put some tape on there just to help stop anything flowing through. You'll find out how successful I was in a minute. I tried quite a few methods to stop the leaking, but in the end I had to go with some paper towel acting as a compression bandage, and then just wrapped it like a Christmas present to try and stop. Luckily it did stop, and everything will be fine, I promise. The one part of the resin pour that did go well was the hot glue dam. That allowed me to fill the resin past the surface of the wood, meaning that I don't have to turn away great swathes of wood to get to a flat surface. I'm just using an old carbide cutter here just to take off the tops of that resin and just clean up the surface. these are just some final shear cuts with a bowl gouge, just to clean up any tear out in the wood, to make sanding go that little bit smoother. Before we do move on to sanding though, we need to create and finish off the base. Now this is quite a simple bowl, so I'm not going to go over the top with the design on the base. Just a few little subtle changes of level and a few little lines in the bottom should see it fine. That little gauge is just to help me cut a recess that will fit my jaws without any problems. A few little detail lines, and now we're ready for sanding. Like the rest of the videos, I'm not going to make you sit through all the sanding, but it's as crucial a step as any of the others. The more time you spend on sanding, the better the finish will be at the end of the day. If everything goes smoothly, I usually run from grits from about 80 up to around 600, using different techniques from hand sanding, a friction sander, and sometimes machine sanding as well. It just depends on what the end grain looks like and what the bowl requires. But the best bit of advice is don't move up a grit until the bowl's as good as it can be with the grit you're currently using. Get it as good as you can get it, and then move up. I'm starting to apply a sealer now, which is a shellac based sealer. Before I put this on though, I did clean out the pores of the wood with some isopropyl alcohol. I usually give the sealer about 5-10 minutes just to settle into the wood, and then I buff it up. After this we move on to an abrasive paste, which we're going to be using Yorkshire grit. The Yorkshire grit can give us an amazing surface to put our final polish on, as long as it's done properly. Cover the piece with the grit as normal, and then you start buffing it with first initially at a low speed, and then as you increase the speed, the particles in the grit break down, and that's when you get the finer and finer polishing effect. The last step when using abrasive paste is to always make sure that you clean off the bowl afterwards with some sort of isopropyl alcohol or something similar. Just make sure you wipe over the surface just to clean off any residue that may be left behind. And now we have a perfectly prepared surface for our final step, which in this case is a bit of Hampshire sheen. This wax will bring it to a nice high gloss finish, and it's also food safe, so we can be assured that our client isn't going to get any nasty tummy ache because of the finish we put in the bowl. With the polishing finished, we can now start to think about turning the bowl around. Now, this bowl sits at just under 12 inches across, which is pretty much the maximum it can fit on my little lathe. There's literally only about 1/4 of an inch below the base of the bowl and the bed of the lathe. So when I'm taking this off, I am trying to be so careful that I don't actually scrape the bottom or drop it. I would hate to have to go back to some hand sanding at this stage. Anyway, now we've safely got the bowl off, we can take off the worm screw and put in our chuck. Chucks are very, very secure ways of holding a blanks to a lathe, but like anything, nothing's guaranteed, so as at the start, I'm using a tailstock support just to give me that extra bit of security. Don't forget there's still an awful lot of weight still in this bowl, as we haven't really started hollowing out yet. I love shaping bowls, but I think my favourite is still and always will be hollowing out. When you're using a nice sharp gouge, just the process of just taking this wood away is just such a great feeling. It's a great way of meditating. And sometimes you find surprises in the wood, like here. The knot, which we were talking about earlier on, doesn't just go from the bottom to the rim. It goes all the way across the bowl to that knot you can see on the other side. I did not expect that. And also, as we get a bit deeper into the bowl, I noticed that some of this knot area going across the bowl had resin in it. So what we'd poured into the edge had made its way all the way across the centre of the bowl as well. I'm past the halfway marker now, so I'm fairly sure that I can take away the tailstock support and still be quite safe. Just spending a few minutes removing that centre area, and now I can start taking the bowl down to its final depth. As we get deeper into the bowl, you'll see me just occasionally stopping and just checking the depth. This is just to ensure that we don't get too thin and risk joining the funnel club. If that's a new expression to you, it basically means you go down far enough that you actually go through the bottom of the bowl and creating a hole, and thus having nothing more than a funnel at the end. As I mentioned at the start of this, we always have to bear in mind the actual function that our piece is going to perform. And as this is going to be a fruit bowl, we want to try and have a fairly flat bottom. This will allow a few amounts of fruit to sit next to each other and have the risk of rot going from one to another. It's a small feature, but it's something I think is important that we try and think of. The inside of the bowl is pretty much there, so now I'm just checking the edge to see what we need to do on the lip. As you can see where the top knot is, there's actually a small hole there from where the resin hasn't quite filled correctly. So just again with the bowl gouge, I'm just going to whittle away at this top to give us a nice shape and just take out that small area where we could have a problem. Here I'm just switching between a carbide tip and a negative rake scraper just to help just smarten up this bottom. There was a couple of areas where just slightly thicker than others, so I just wanted to make sure that we got rid of those so everything was perfect before we start sanding. If you've made it through this far, then thank you very much indeed for sticking with us. If you have an opinion on the new format with me voiceovering as opposed to just stopping it ad hoc or repeating things ad hoc during the process, then please leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you thought, if you think it's an improvement, or please go back to the old way. The sanding for this was an interesting process. The transition between the edge and the base took an awful lot of hand sanding to get right, to make sure that it was any lines were completely invisible. But I was really, really happy with the way it came out. The next few processes, it's a rinse and repeat as the outside. So we start off with a shellac, buff it to a shine. Then we go in with the Yorkshire grit to polish, clean off with isopropyl, and then we move on to the Hampshire sheen for our finishing polish. As you can hopefully see, the effort and time we've put into the preparing the surface of this wood is starting to bear fruit. Ash has always been one of my favourite woods to work on, and this is no exception. The grain in this piece is absolutely beautiful, and I'm sure its new owner will really love it. Finally, just a quick reminder that if you subscribe to the channel, like any of the videos and leave a comment as well, that you're going to be entered into a competition to give away a bowl when we get to 1,000 subscribers. And at the moment I think we're only about 50 subscribers away, so hopefully that moment will be with us soon. So if there's still an opportunity for that, I'm not quite sure when this video will be coming out, but if there is, then please leave a comment, make sure you subscribe and like the video, and then you're going to be entered. But apart from that, I think we're nearly about there. Just the last coat of polish is going on the bowl, and then this one will be done. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed this format, please leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Feedback is always good. But apart from that, I'd like to thank you all very much indeed for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please join us next time.